Big Rob Theory, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Flash Season 6, Episode 2. So Episode 2 was significantly better and more informative than Episode 1. Not to say that Episode 1 was bad, because it wasn't. Episode 2 just definitely dove more into certain subjects and certain characters that I'll dive into later. Just as a forewarning, I probably will say a lot of names that either don't sound familiar or you just have no idea about. I'm going to make a separate video specifically dedicated to DC's like big bad villains and DC's really good heroes, especially with the upcoming Crisis crossover. Speaking of the Crisis crossover, before I get to this episode of synopsis and reaction, I want to tell you a little bit about Crisis on Infinite Earths. Just a little snippet about it, so that you, whenever you see these references in these shows or you see them in the videos, you'll know, and it'll make a lot more sense and you'll get a lot more excited. So basically the Crisis encircles around DCU's explanation of the multiverse, which according to DC Universe Online's database, it's parallel universes and alternate versions of like the current DCU heroes and villains themselves, but the primary reality or universe is Earth 1. Basically, there's this individual named the Monitor who was there since the dawn of time. He basically, in essence, controls these realities, and there's his evil counterpart called the Anti-Monitor that comes into play. And in the comics, he basically just wants to eradicate everything that the Monitor has done. According to the online articles and these comics, there's an antimatter incident that happens in a different universe involving the antimatter villain, thus causing him to go on a rampage wanting to annihilate every other parallel universe and any versions of these universes. Basically, he wants to become the sole ruler of all realities and anything possible that is living, existing. He wants to control it. And there's a lot more that goes into the Crisis comics. Basically, the Monitor starts recruiting heroes from vast parallel universes, which is why we have this huge ensemble of characters being associated into this Crisis crossover that's coming in December. And the Monitor just recruits all these heroes because he can't do it alone. In the comics, something happens to the Monitor, which also causes a little disturbance in the multiverse. To combat that, the Monitor creates this kind of field that if anything happens to him, certain realities are protected. There's so many different versions of this specific comic, and there's so many aspects to this comic that anybody who's not a fan of superheroes, you would become a fan just reading into these different crossovers. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier this week and saying that crossovers are where it's at, man. That's what gets people who aren't invested into these shows. Show them some of the crossovers. Hell, even for the fans, man, the crossovers, I think we can all agree, crossovers are awesome. So in the actual Crisis crossover comic, a lot of heroes actually die. A lot of heroes meet their fate in order to protect the greater good. As we've seen in the CW's live adaptation of these various heroes and their shows, certain things are definitely going to be altered. And one thing that constantly remains the same is that Barry Allen, or in essence, the Flash, you pay attention to one of the episodes, or in last week's episode actually, the Monitor says, the Flash must die. I know that's a little spoiler, but here's the thing. Did he say Barry? No, he said the Flash. That could be any variation of the Flash. And in this episode 2, we get another version of Flash, Jay Garrick's Flash, played by John Wesley Shipp. Was a great addition into episode 2. Anytime John Wesley Shipp makes a cameo into the Flash show, seeing as to how he was the Flash of the 90s, it's always an awesome appearance by him. So Jay Garrick is the Flash of Earth 3. Barry often goes to him for assistance because, one, it's his dad's doppelganger, and two, Jay Garrick has just been a helpful and noble Flash throughout all of time and space. We get another great cameo in this episode, and it's Nora Allen, Barry's mother, or a version of Barry's mother. Her character name in this episode is Dr. Joan Williams, and she has no idea that she's Barry's mother. In another universe, she's Barry's mother, who is deceased. Dr. Joan Williams, or Nora Allen, is played by Michelle Harrison. Great actress, plays the role of Barry's mother just so well, and the chemistry between all these actors and actresses on this show is astounding because they bring the comics to life in such a great way. It's a great time to be a DC fan, a Marvel fan. a movie fan or a TV fan, because all these things that we love and have read growing up are coming back and coming to life in a great way. Also within this episode, you see a lot of maturity from everyone in the team, especially and significantly from Barry and Iris. I won't spoil too much of this episode for you, but I will say that Iris definitely has some strong scenes in this episode. We see Barry after he has dove into the future, in essence, to see how he can prevent himself from vanishing or prevent himself from dying during this crisis. When he's met with everything that transpires, he feels every single person, not only in his world, but in all of the universes. He feels all of their pain. That resonates with him mentally and physically. He's riddled, pretty much impaired for a while, because that's a lot to take on even for a superhuman. So Candace Patton, aka Iris, great acting in this episode, because she really alludes to season 3, when she was the one that was predicted to perish, and Barry constantly was like, we gotta change the future. You're not dying. I gotta protect you. In this episode, you see kind of the roles are reversed, and the writers of this show did a great job in making that such a beautiful push and pull between Grant Gustin and Candace Patton. There's also some very notable characters in this crisis, in the comics at least. There's Pariah and Harbinger. Not gonna say anything else about them. In the next video, I will definitely talk about all these characters that are involved specifically in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. Just know there are a lot of characters coming. Also within this episode, we see a prominent DC villain as well. His name is Bloodwork, and we see his origin story. Now, my only quip with this episode is the fact that we were just introduced to this villain, or the person who plays this villain, beginning of the season, which was only 2 weeks ago. And we are already seeing a sort of downfall when we don't really have a true backstory about him, or don't really know much about him. That's okay, you know, but if there's any negative that I would say about this episode, it would be that we've already seen how this guy, who we actually have no prior knowledge about, is in essence an a-hole. The actor is great, so I know that this is going to be done well. And so far, his acting is amazing. But that's my only quibble with this show, is the fact that the villain that you're supposed to kind of get some build-up with and know a little bit more about, and then see him have a little bit of a downfall, kind of like how they did with Reverse Flash. You don't really see that, and I get that he's not that big of a villain, you know, for this season, because there's multiple villains probably. It's the Flash, come on. You know, that, like I said, that's my only thing. You know, it's not even that big of a thing, you know. Whatever. So thanks for watching this video. Like, I didn't get too much into the episode because there's a lot that deals with Crisis in this episode, and there's other things that happen, but it's mainly just, you know, a tad bit of character development from the others in Team Flash. Not that it's a boring episode, it's a great episode actually. You see a new character come in. Her name is Allegra Garcia. Apparently is a less than commonly known Titans character. So I'm gonna have to look more into that. Back to you guys on that one. Please like and comment on this video with your thoughts. Let me know what you thought about last week's episode. And leave any suggestions that you might have, or any ideas you might have if you want to see me review and break down the essence of a certain character, or a certain comic, or a certain movie, you know? Just let me know. Thanks for watching, guys. And away we go.